Part 1. When the mirror begins to tremble. Have you ever met someone who seems to know you? Not through words, not through time, but through the silence between your breaths? Someone whose presence feels like home, yet terrifyingly unfamiliar? That moment when your eyes meet theirs and something deep within you whispers, "I know you." That's the moment the mirror stage begins. It's not just a meeting of two people. It's a meeting of two souls, reflections of the same source, now standing face to face, trembling at what they see. First, everything feels divine. Your heart opens effortlessly. Conversations flow like water. You feel seen finally, completely, perhaps for the first time in your life. You think, this must be what love truly feels like. But soon the mirror starts to shake. What once felt like pure light begins to reveal its shadows. You start noticing things that make you uncomfortable, the way they pull away when you need closeness, the way you become anxious when they stop replying, the jealousy that burns for no logical reason. And then comes the question that haunts you. Why does this connection, so beautiful, so magnetic, hurt this much? That's when the mirror whispers back. Because you are finally seeing yourself. The twin flame journey has been romanticized as the ultimate form of love, two halves finding each other. But few people talk about the raw, uncomfortable truth. Your twin doesn't come to complete you. They come to reveal you, to show you the parts of yourself that you've buried, denied, or rejected. They are not the missing piece. They are the reflection of everything within you that is still longing to be healed. Think of it this way. If your soul were a vast ocean, then your twin is the wind that stirs its surface, not to destroy it, but to awaken the waves you've kept still for too long. Every fear, every wound, every suppressed emotion begins to rise, demanding to be seen. And that's where most people panic. They mistake the storm for destruction, when in truth, it is transformation. When the mirror trembles, the ego begins to scream. The ego loves control. It thrives in stability, in predictable emotions, in the illusion that you can manage love like a plan. But twin flame energy is raw, unfiltered, and beyond the ego's control. It exposes your insecurities like light through glass. If you have abandonment wounds, your twin will trigger them. If you have jealousy issues, your twin will reflect them. If you fear not being enough, your twin will mirror that belief until you cannot run from it anymore. Here's what's fascinating. The ego's first response is defense. You start blaming them. You say, they're emotionally unavailable. They're toxic. They don't care about me the way I care about them. But deep down, what's really happening is an energetic mirror. They are not doing something to you, they are showing you what already lives within you. Your anger reveals your unmet needs. Your jealousy reveals your fear of loss. Your silence reveals your inability to express truth. Your pain is not punishment. It's a message. The twin flame isn't your enemy. They are your mirror. And mirrors don't create the reflection. They only show it. It's easy to love the mirror when it flatters you, when it shows your beauty, your compassion, your light. But can you still love it when it shows your darkness? Can you face your own manipulation, your fear of rejection, your hidden pride? Because that's what this stage demands. Radical honesty, radical self-awareness, radical surrender. You're not being asked to fix yourself to earn love. You're being invited to see yourself clearly, to bring every shadow into the light, to love even the parts you once thought unlovable. Example. Imagine you've always feared being abandoned. You meet your twin and suddenly they become distant, silent, detached. You panic. You chase. You plead. But what's really happening here? They are showing you the mirror of abandonment. They're not teaching you how to cling tighter, they're showing you where you've given away your power to the fear of being left behind. They're reminding you of the moment in your childhood when love felt conditional, when you first believed you had to earn affection. Until you face that, until you hold that inner child and say, you are safe now. The mirror will keep replaying the same story, through different faces, different timelines, different lifetimes. That's why this stage is so sacred and so brutal. It tears away illusions. It forces you to confront everything that stands between you and unconditional love. Because unconditional love cannot exist where fear still rules. This is not punishment. This is purification. The mirror doesn't shatter you to hurt you. It shatters you to reveal what's eternal. When you look into the mirror and see your anger, your jealousy, your fear, what do? Do you turn away? Do you cover the reflection? Or do you stay even when it hurts to look? Because staying, that's where healing begins. Staying means refusing to abandon yourself again. It means choosing awareness over reaction. Every soul on the twin flame journey reaches this threshold, this trembling moment between love and fear, between ego and essence. Some run, some blame, some close their hearts. But those who stay, who breathe through the discomfort, who dare to ask, what is this showing me about myself? They begin to awaken. They realize that the mirror was never the enemy. It was the invitation, the gateway to liberation. When you stop chasing the image in the mirror and start tending to the one who's looking, everything changes. The triggers soften. The chaos quiets. The connection deepens, not because your twin has changed, but because you have. And that's the paradox of the mirror stage. You can't find peace by changing the reflection. You find peace by changing the one who looks. So the next time your twin triggers, you pause. Don't ask, why are they doing this to me? Ask, what part of me is asking to be seen? That's how the mirror becomes your greatest teacher. That's how pain becomes purification. That's how separation becomes sacred. The mirror stage is not the end of love. It's the beginning of real love. Because when the mirror trembles, it's not showing you what's wrong. It's showing you what's ready to awaken. Part 2: The Soul's Mirror. When love becomes reflection. When you first meet your twin flame, you think it's about love. But then you realize it's not just about love. It's about truth. And truth, unlike fantasy, has edges. Cuts through illusion. It doesn't flatter you. It frees you. Because what your twin shows you is not always beautiful. Sometimes it's the version of you that you've been running from all your life. The angry one. The insecure one. The one who still doesn't believe they deserve to be loved. They stand before you, calm, silent, radiant, while every buried emotion in you begins to quake. It's not their words, not their actions, it's their energy. Something about them activates everything you've tried to suppress. And in that moment you start to see the pattern. How every heartbreak before was not random. How every relationship was preparing you for this one, the ultimate mirror. Because the twin flame journey is not about romance. It's about remembrance. It's about remembering who you are beyond the layers of fear, expectation, and pain. The reflection of the ego. This stage, your ego becomes loud. It demands answers. It wants control. It says, if they really loved me, they wouldn't disappear. If I was enough, they wouldn't choose someone else. But the mirror doesn't respond to words. It only reflects vibration. Your twin flame mirrors what you believe, not what you say. If deep down you believe I am not worthy, they will reflect situations that affirm that belief until you learn to rewrite it from within. That's why so many people experience the runner-chaser dynamic. It's not a chase between two people. It's the chase between your shadow and your soul. You chase them because you're avoiding something inside yourself. They run because they're avoiding their own reflection too. It's two mirrors turning away from each other, afraid of what they might see if they face the light together. When love hurts, it's showing you where to heal. Here's the truth no one wants to hear. Love doesn't hurt. What hurts is the resistance to love. When unconditional love shines upon your inner wounds, it burns. Not because love is cruel, but because it's trying to cleanse everything that isn't real. Love doesn't cause pain, it reveals it. Every moment you're triggered, every tear you shed, every time you think, I can't do this anymore. The universe is whispering, you can. You're just learning how to love yourself where you once refused to. So when your twin pulls away, ask yourself, where am I pulling away from myself? When they go silent, ask, where have I silenced my own truth? This is the essence of the mirror stage. Learning to use their reflection as a map back to your heart. The mirror as a spiritual teacher. Most of us were taught to fix the outer world, to change others, to make them stay, to demand apologies. But the twin flame mirror doesn't work that way. It says, look inward first. Because until the inner vibration changes, the outer reflection cannot. You cannot clean a mirror by wiping its reflection. You have to touch the source, the one looking into it. There's an ancient teaching that says, When the student is ready, the teacher appears. When the soul is ready, the mirror appears. Your twin is not your enemy, not your savior, not your possession. They are your sacred mirror. The living teacher your soul called forth to help you see yourself clearly. And clarity is not always comfortable, but clarity is liberation, the alchemy of reflection. When you begin to see through the mirror instead of reacting to it, something magical happens. You start transforming pain into awareness. That's alchemy, the spiritual kind, turning lead into gold. Not in your hands but in your heart. Example. Instead of saying, "They made me feel rejected," you begin to say, "Their rejection helped me notice where I still depend on external validation." You shift from blame to observation, from pain to perspective, from reaction to response. And slowly the reflection begins to change, not because they've changed but because you are no longer vibrating from fear. That's the real mirror work. Not trying to fix the reflection, but becoming the kind of light that changes it naturally. The courage to stay present. To face your mirror requires immense courage, because it means standing naked before your own soul. No masks, no defenses, no pretending. It's easy to love when you're adored, but can you still love when you're misunderstood? Can you hold space when you're triggered? Can you forgive when your ego screams for revenge? These are not easy questions, but they are sacred ones. Because every time you choose awareness over reaction, you're breaking a generational cycle of pain. You're saying no to patterns your ancestors never healed. You're saying yes to consciousness. And that's why the twin flame journey is not just personal. It's collective healing. When two souls heal the polarity between love and fear within themselves, they ripple that frequency into the entire grid of humanity. That's why mirror stages matter. They're portals for planetary evolution. Beyond blame, the beginning of awakening. There comes a moment, after all the chasing, the crying, the searching, when something inside you softens. You stop asking, "Why did they hurt me?" And instead you whisper, "What was this trying to teach me?" That's the birth of wisdom. That's when you start to love without needing ownership. That's when love stops being a transaction and becomes a transformation. The mirror no longer feels like an enemy. It becomes a friend, even when it challenges you. You begin to see beauty in the reflection, not because it's perfect, but because it's honest. And in that honesty you find freedom. The mirror of compassion. Compassion is the final key. When you realize your twin isn't trying to hurt you, they're simply showing you the parts of you that still hurt. Forgiveness flows naturally. You stop wishing they were different. You start thanking them for the mirror. Even their silence becomes sacred, because silence forces you to listen not to them but to yourself. You begin to hold both your pain and theirs with tenderness, because at the soul level you realize they're going through the same storm. The mirror works both ways. They, too, are seeing their own darkness through you. And that's where the real union begins. Not in possession, not in romance, but in shared awakening. The mirror stage isn't here to break you. It's here to show you what's still waiting to be loved inside you. When you finally stop fighting the reflection, when you look into your own eyes and whisper, "I'm ready to see," the mirror stops trembling. It becomes still. And in that stillness you meet not your twin but yourself. Because that's the truth of the twin flame journey. It's never been about finding the other. It's always been about coming home to you. Part 3. When the ego dies. The birth of soul awareness. Every soul on this journey eventually reaches a breaking point. It's not when your twin leaves. It's not when communication stops. It's when your illusions finally crumble. When everything you thought love was falls apart. When every rule you believed about connection stops making sense. And all that's left is the unbearable truth. You can't control this. You never could. The death of control. The ego's favorite illusion is control. It whispers, "If I say the right thing, they'll come back. If I heal fast enough, they'll stay. If I act perfect, I'll be loved." But the twin flame mirror doesn't respond to manipulation. Not even spiritual manipulation. You cannot manifest your way into union if your heart is still chained by fear. You cannot pretend to surrender while secretly grasping the outcome. So the universe, with unrelenting compassion, begins to dismantle the illusion. One by one it removes everything you cling to until your hands are empty. Feels like loss. Feels like death. But what's really dying is the false self. Voiceover, soft, trembling. This is the ego death. Not a dramatic event, but a slow unraveling. 1,000 small deaths of everything you once identified with. The version of you who believed love must be earned dies. The version of you who thought being abandoned meant being unworthy dies. The version of you who equated pain with punishment dies. And as each part dissolves, something luminous begins to emerge from beneath the ashes. Something raw, real, and eternal. Your soul awareness. The silence between mirrors. After the storm of the mirror stage, silence often follows. No messages. No signs. No telepathic rush. At first it feels like abandonment, the cruel echo of separation. But in truth, it's the sacred silence that allows rebirth. In the stillness you begin to hear your own voice again. Not the anxious voice of the chaser, not the guarded voice of the runner, but the voice of your soul. Calm, gentle, patient. It whispers, breathe. You are not alone. You never were. You start to realize that the connection never disappeared. It simply shifted from external to internal. Your twin was never out there. They were always within you. The mirror becomes a window. As the ego dies, the mirror transforms. No longer a reflection of pain. It becomes a window to consciousness. You start to see everything differently. The arguments, the ghosting, the separation, they were never punishment. They were initiation. Every rejection was a redirection. Every silence was space for self-realization. The more you let go of them, the more you meet you. And then, for the first time, you experience love without conditions. You don't need their response to feel whole. You don't need their validation to feel worthy. You don't even need their presence to feel connected. Because love is no longer a transaction. It's your natural state of being. When pain turns into light, pain doesn't disappear overnight, but it changes texture. It stops being sharp and becomes sacred. You begin to understand that pain was never your enemy. It was your guide. Every heartbreak cracked you open, just enough for the light to enter. It's like walking out of a dark cave after years of blindness. The brightness hurts at first. But as your eyes adjust, you begin to see the world not in black and white but in infinite shades of truth. And you realize, the pain didn't destroy you, it refined you. The paradox of surrender. To the ego, surrender means defeat. To the soul, surrender means freedom. When you stop fighting what is, you begin to merge with what's real. You stop asking the universe for outcomes and start asking for understanding. You stop clinging to timelines and start trusting divine timing. You stop chasing union and start embodying it. Because surrender is not about giving up. It's about giving in to the current of life itself. One night, you'll cry not from longing but from gratitude. Because you'll realize, everything you lost was never truly yours. Everything that left was never meant to stay in its old form. And everything you are is already enough. That's when the energy shifts. Your vibration changes. The mirror clears. The return of stillness. The world outside might look the same streets, same job, same sky. But inside everything feels different. You wake up lighter. You breathe deeper. You stop rehearsing conversations in your head. You stop searching for signs that they're thinking of you. Because you know, not in the mind but in the soul. You feel the invisible thread that connects you. Not as longing but as peace. It's the same energy now purified. Union has quietly begun within you. The awareness of oneness. When the ego dies, you no longer see your twin as separate. You understand that both of you are expressions of one consciousness exploring itself through duality. Their anger mirrors your repressed rage. Your longing mirrors their fear of loss. Their silence mirrors your need to control. It's all one dance, love playing hide and seek with itself. You start seeing the same divine energy flowing through everyone. Not just your twin. The stranger in the coffee shop, the friend who listens, even the person who once hurt you, all mirrors. All teachers, all love in disguise. That's the awakening of soul awareness. The birth of compassion. When you awaken, compassion naturally blossoms. Because you remember you've been every version of yourself, the runner, the chaser, the broken, the healed. So how could you judge them now? You see through their fear, their silence, their mistakes, and you forgive not because you should, but because you understand. You stop needing closure, because you realize nothing ever truly ended. Every goodbye was simply another doorway into self-realization. And from this compassion, you radiate a new kind of energy, one that doesn't demand, doesn't cling, doesn't chase. Simply is. That's what unconditional love feels like. Presence without possession. The death of the ego is not the end of your story, it's the beginning of a truer one. It's where love stops being a search and becomes a state of being. It's where pain transforms into wisdom, and longing becomes grace. You no longer say, I need them to feel complete. You say, I am complete, and through my wholeness, I love them even more freely. That's the paradox of awakening. The less you need, the more you have. The less you grasp, the more love flows through you. The final realization. And then one day you catch your reflection in the mirror. Not trembling anymore, but serene. You smile, because you recognize the eyes looking back at you. It's not the old self, the one that begged for love or feared rejection. It's the soul, timeless, vast, and free. You realize that what you were seeking in them was never lost. It was always here, waiting for you to come home. That's the birth of soul awareness. The moment you remember you are both the mirror and the light. So if you are in the pain of separation right now, if your mirror is showing you everything you fear, remember this. You are not breaking down. You are breaking open. Let the ego die. Let the truth rise. Because on the other side of this surrender, you won't just find your twin flame, you'll find yourself. Part 4: The Alchemy of Healing. Turning reflection into transformation. When the storm of the mirror stage finally begins to quiet, something subtle awakens. It's not peace, not yet. It's awareness. A new kind of seeing. You begin to understand that healing was never about fixing yourself to win back your twin flame. It was about becoming the kind of presence that no longer loses themselves in love. The journey turns inward. The mirror that once terrified you now becomes your tool. And every reflection becomes medicine. 1. Seeing without judgment. The first step of healing is seeing, truly seeing. For most of your life, you've looked at your emotions through the eyes of judgment. You've called fear weakness. You've called anger wrong. You've called sadness too much. But healing begins when you stop labeling and start witnessing. You look into the mirror and say, this too is me. When you can sit with your jealousy without shame, when you can hold your grief without drowning, that's when the alchemy begins. Because transformation doesn't happen through rejection. It happens through acceptance. You don't transcend your shadows by denying them. You integrate them by loving them. That's what your twin flame came to teach you. Not to escape the human experience, but to embrace it completely. 2. The inner laboratory. Every alchemist needs a laboratory. For you, that laboratory is your heart. It's where you bring your raw materials, fear, attachment, longing, and transmute them into gold. Compassion, strength, awareness. The process is not glamorous. Some days you'll feel raw, trembling, undone. You'll think you're regressing, but in truth you're refining. When you sit in meditation and tears suddenly fall, that's alchemy. When you write in your journal and finally name the wound that's been haunting you, that's alchemy. When you catch yourself before reacting in anger and choose to breathe instead, that's alchemy. Transformation is quiet, subtle, often invisible, but inside worlds are shifting. 3. Healing the inner child. Much of what the twin flame mirror reveals are not adult wounds. They are the cries of your inner child. The one who first felt unseen, unheard, unworthy. Maybe you were told that expressing emotion was weakness. Maybe you had to grow up too soon. Maybe love always came with conditions. Your twin simply mirrors that old story back to you. Not to reopen the wound, but to invite you to rewrite it. You begin to parent yourself. You sit with that inner child and whisper, you are safe now. You don't have to earn love anymore. You don't have to chase it. It already lives in you. When that child finally feels seen, the pattern breaks. The triggers soften. The reflection shifts. Because what once sought validation now radiates self-trust. What once screamed for attention now glows with peace. 4. The mirror is a map. At this point, every trigger, becomes a compass. Every uncomfortable emotion points to a part of you asking for integration. Jealousy points to fear of loss. Control points to distrust of life. Anger points to boundaries that were never honored. Sadness points to ungrieved memories. Instead of running, you start to inquire. What are you teaching me? What part of me wants to be heard right now? You become both scientist and subject, both observer and observed. You realize that awareness itself is healing, because the moment you see your pain clearly, without judgment, it loses its power to control you. 5. Turning pain into purpose. Every wound carries wisdom. Every scar hides a lesson. Once integrated, they become your medicine, not just for you but for others. Maybe you start writing. Maybe you create art. Maybe you begin to guide others through what you've learned. You begin to understand that your suffering wasn't meaningless. It was shaping you into someone who could bring light to dark places. The very thing that once broke you becomes the thing that allows you to heal the world. That's the ultimate alchemy, turning personal pain into collective healing. 6. Reclaiming creative energy. When your energy is no longer consumed by emotional chaos, it becomes available for creation. You begin to rediscover your passions. You start painting again, writing, singing, exploring, not to impress but to express. Because every time you heal a wound, you free up life force energy that was trapped inside it. That's why spiritual awakening and creativity often rise together. They are born from the same source, freedom. And through creation, you honor your twin not by holding on to them, but by embodying the love you both awakened in each other. The separation no longer feels like punishment, feels like sacred inspiration. 7. Learning to love without owning. True healing in the twin flame journey means learning to love without possession, to love without needing an outcome, to love without expecting it to look a certain way. You start to see love as energy, not transaction. You don't say, I love you because you make me feel good. You say, I love you because loving is what I am. This kind of love doesn't end when the person walks away. It doesn't depend on physical presence or contact. It simply exists as naturally as sunlight. And in that state, the soul begins to glow differently. You become magnetic, not from wanting but from being. 8. Integration through presence. Healing doesn't happen in the past or future. It happens in the now. Every time you return to the present moment, you break the cycle of projection. You stop replaying memories. You stop worrying about reunion. You simply be. You breathe. You feel. You witness. Presence is the highest form of alignment. Because when you are fully here, the mirror has nothing left to reflect. It becomes transparent. You no longer live in reaction to your wounds. You live in communion with your soul. 9. The birth of inner union. After enough integration, a new sensation arises. You wake up one morning and realize you don't feel half anymore. You feel whole. You no longer crave reunion as proof of completion, because you are union. Your inner masculine, the action logic protector, harmonizes with your inner feminine, the intuition feeling nurturer, balance, flow, peace. And as this energy stabilizes, something beautiful happens. You begin to attract people, experiences, and opportunities that resonate with this new vibration. Sometimes your twin returns, not because you chased them, but because you became what you both were always meant to embody. Love without fear. 10. The golden reflection. And finally, you stand before the mirror once more. But this time you don't see distortion. You don't see wounds. You don't even see separation. You see light, your light, shining through every experience you've endured. You realize that the twin flame journey was never about finding the other half. It was about polishing the mirror until you could see the divine within yourself. You smile, not because it's over, but because you understand. There was never a mirror. There was only you, awakening to your own infinite reflection. Healing is not an ending. It's an evolution. You are not who you were when this journey began. You are softer, wiser, more alive. You no longer run from the mirror. You dance with it. You no longer fear the shadows. You light them from within. And that, dear soul, is the real union. Not two bodies becoming one, but one consciousness remembering its divinity through love. Part 5 Union Energy. When two souls rise as one. Frequency. There comes a moment after the long night of healing, when something shifts. It's quiet, subtle, almost imperceptible. But you feel it, a stillness that used to scare you now feels like peace. This is the dawn of union energy. It doesn't begin with reunion. It begins with resonance. It's not about two bodies running toward each other. It's about two souls vibrating at the same frequency again. Not because they found each other, but because they found themselves. 1. The return to vibrational harmony. For so long, the journey was about polarity, runner and chaser, masculine and feminine, love and fear. But after integration, polarity becomes balance. You no longer chase, you attract. You no longer beg, you radiate. Your energy has softened yet strengthened. Your presence has become medicine. Not only for your twin, but for everyone you encounter. And here's the secret. The moment you stop trying to unite with your twin, you already are. Because union is not a destination. It's a state of consciousness. When you vibrate at love, you are in union. When you act from peace, you are in union. When you forgive, surrender, and trust, you are in union. The physical world eventually catches up with that vibration. 2. The magnetic field of love. In the language of energy, love is coherence, the alignment of heart, mind, and soul. When two beings reach that coherence independently, their frequencies harmonize naturally. It's not magic. It's magnetism. Your energy field expands, becoming luminous, calm, balanced. You stop reaching for your twin with desperation. You begin to hold them in compassion. And they feel that no matter where they are. Because love at this level transcends distance. It speaks in vibration, not words. Your peace becomes their invitation to rise. Your surrender becomes their mirror for freedom. You no longer need to send messages or signs. Your energy communicates everything. The soul-to-soul dialogue continues in silence. 3. The law of resonance. In the twin flame dynamic, nothing is forced. You cannot pull your twin into alignment with you, but you can inspire it through resonance. When you stop vibrating from need, you become an energetic match for unconditional love. And because your twin shares your energetic blueprint, they begin to feel that shift too. They start facing their own shadows, their own healing, not because you demanded it, but because your frequency calls them home. That's the beauty of resonance. It heals without control. It draws without effort. It leads without manipulation. Union energy is not pursuit, it's presence. 4. The mirroring transcends conflict. In earlier stages, mirroring caused pain, triggers, conflict, ego battles. But in union energy, the mirror becomes neutral. Instead of showing you wounds, it reflects wisdom. Instead of exposing pain, it amplifies peace. You might meet your twin again or you might not, but when you do, the dynamic feels entirely different. There's no drama, no chase, no fear. Only recognition. You look into their eyes and the chaos that once lived there is gone. What remains is simplicity. Two souls who no longer need each other to feel whole. They simply choose to share the wholeness they've found. This is true sacred partnership, not dependency but expansion. 5. When union becomes service. As the energy stabilizes, something deeper awakens. You begin to realize this connection was never just about the two of you. It was about what your combined energy can do for the collective. Twin flames are not meant to sit in a personal bubble of romance forever. They are meant to serve. Their love becomes a conduit for higher consciousness, an anchor for light on earth. When both have reached inner union, they radiate a frequency so pure that it affects everyone around them. People feel calmer in their presence. Strangers feel inspired without knowing why. Because the energy of union carries remembrance, the vibration that whispers, you too are divine. 6. The integration of the masculine and feminine. Within each of you, the sacred masculine and divine feminine now move in harmony. The masculine no longer fears vulnerability. He protects love with integrity, not control. The feminine no longer fears abandonment. She nurtures from wholeness, not need. Together, they create flow within you and between you. Decisions become intuitive. Actions become inspired. Love feels effortless. The dance of polarity becomes the rhythm of creation. And whether or not your twin is physically by your side, that internal balance transforms your outer world, your relationships, your purpose, your art, your life. 7 signs of union energy manifestation. You'll notice that life itself begins to mirror this frequency. Synchronicities increase, but not with urgency, with peace. You'll see repeating numbers not as desperate signs, but as gentle winks from the universe. Opportunities align. Friendships feel authentic. Money flows in harmony. With purpose. Even your environment begins to reflect serenity, the right home, the right work, the right rhythm. It's as if reality bends to meet the new frequency you've anchored. Because the universe always mirrors vibration, and yours has become love embodied. 8. When reunion happens. Physical reunion, if it occurs, is no longer about desire, it's about divine timing. When both souls have reached the vibration of love without conditions, reunion becomes inevitable. It feels natural, almost ordinary, because it's no longer charged with desperation. You meet not to complete each other, but to create together. The connection matures from intensity into serenity, from karma into dharma, from lesson into purpose. And if reunion doesn't happen in the physical world, you still live in union, because at the level of the soul, you never truly separated. You walk in the world knowing that every act of love, every gesture of kindness, every moment of gratitude is a reunion in motion. 9. The frequency of freedom. Union energy feels different from what most people imagine. It's not constant euphoria. It's freedom. Freedom to love without fear. Freedom to express without judgment. Freedom to exist without needing external validation. It's the energy of 2 souls walking side by side, each honoring the other's path, knowing they are reflections of the same light. This freedom doesn't dissolve intimacy, it deepens it. Because when love is no longer about control, it becomes infinite. You no longer say, "You are mine." You say, "We are divine." 10. The collective ripple. The highest purpose of twin flame union is collective awakening. Every healed pair contributes to the healing of polarity within humanity. Each act of forgiveness between twins sends ripples of compassion through the energetic grid of the planet. Your personal transformation becomes a contribution to the whole. Your reunion, internal or external, becomes a beacon for others. You begin to live in service consciousness, not as sacrifice but as overflow. You give because you have become the source itself. You love because you are love. And in that moment, you understand the real meaning of union. It was never about 2 souls merging. It was about all souls remembering they were never apart. Union is not found in another person. It's awakened within you, and through you it blesses the world. You are not waiting for love to return. You are the return of love itself. So breathe. Let the energy flow through you. Let your life become the mirror through which others remember their light. Because when 2 souls rise as one frequency, the entire universe sings in resonance. Part 6. Beyond the mirror. The twin flame mission and collective healing. When the mirror grows still, when the chaos subsides and the heart no longer trembles with longing, something new begins. The story of love between 2 souls transforms into something larger. The story of love between humanity and the divine. This is the moment the twin flame journey becomes something greater than romance. It becomes mission. The sacred calling to serve, to create, to heal together and through love. 1. The shift from personal to universal. At first, the twin flame connection feels intimate, private, deeply personal. Every emotion revolves around you and them. But as consciousness expands, you realize the energy that flows between you is not yours alone. It's the energy of creation itself, moving through you, expressing itself in your lives. Your connection is not separate from the collective. It's a microcosm of it. Every fear you've healed, every shadow you've integrated, every wound you've forgiven, you haven't just done it for yourself. You've done it for the entire field of consciousness that still carries those frequencies. The twin flame path was never meant to stop at reunion. It was meant to ignite remembrance, within you, within others, within the world. 2. The embodiment of love. When love is no longer a concept, when it becomes a frequency that lives. Through your every breath, you start to embody it. You speak differently. You listen differently. You walk into a room and people feel calmer without knowing why. Because the vibration you carry is coherence, heart and soul in harmony. You don't need to preach, your energy teaches. You don't need to convince, your presence convinces. This is what the ancients meant by walking in love. It's not about perfection, it's about alignment. You live as love, not because you're trying to, but because there's nothing left in you that resists it. 3. The mirror becomes a beacon. What began as a mirror for personal healing now becomes a beacon for collective transformation. The love that once burned between two souls now radiates outward, touching many. You begin to feel guided to write, to create, to teach, to heal. Some twin flames build projects together. Others serve separately yet in energetic unity. It doesn't matter what form it takes. The essence is the same. Awakening through love. Every twin flame pair anchors a unique frequency. Some bring compassion into business. Some infuse art with divine remembrance. Some heal systems of education, medicine, or communication. Each is a different expression of the same source. Love finding its way back into the world. 4. Healing the collective wounds. Our planet carries deep wounds, fear, separation, inequality, shame. And because twin flames mirror humanity itself, their healing becomes a template for collective evolution. The masculine within the collective logic control structure is learning to open its heart again. The feminine, intuition, emotion, nurturing, is remembering its strength and voice. When twin flames heal these polarities within themselves, they broadcast balance into the field. It's subtle yet profound. Every act of forgiveness, every conscious choice of peace, sends ripples through the collective unconscious, rewriting patterns that have existed for centuries. So when you forgive your twin, you're not just forgiving one person. You're forgiving all the ways humanity has misunderstood love. You're participating in the healing of an entire. This realization changes everything. Judgment dissolves. Competition disappears. The need to prove or defend fades. You start living from what mystics call unity consciousness, the awareness that all beings are fragments of one infinite light, each playing a role in the awakening of the whole. 6. Service as the language of love. When love matures, it stops asking, "What can I get?" and starts asking, "What can I give?" Service becomes your natural expression, not out of obligation but out of overflow. You might start a project to help others heal, to teach, to guide, to create beauty, not to seek purpose, but because love wants to express itself through you. That's how divine purpose feels. Effortless, yet unstoppable. In service, the twin flame journey finds its true fulfillment, because love that stays confined between two people eventually stagnates, but love that flows outward becomes infinite. And so, every act of service, every kind word, every moment of compassion, becomes an offering to the divine, a living testament to the union you've become. 7. Anchoring light in the physical world. The mission isn't always grand or glamorous. Sometimes it's quiet. It's being fully present with your family. It's showing patience where you once would have reacted. It's choosing integrity over convenience. Anchoring light means bringing awareness with human experience. When enough awakened souls do this, the planet itself begins to shift vibration. From fear to love, from chaos to harmony. 8. The collective mirror. As more twin flames awaken, the world itself begins to mirror their process. Old systems crumble. Hidden truths rise. Humanity faces its own shadow, just as you once faced yours. Can feel chaotic, even painful, but remember, the same principle applies. The collective can only heal what it's willing to see. And just as you didn't destroy your mirror but learned to love it, humanity too is learning to love its reflection. Your role is not to fix the world, but to hold the frequency of compassion as it transforms. To be the calm in the storm, the light that reminds others of what's divinity. That dual awareness can feel heavy at times. You may feel like you don't fully belong to either world. But that's precisely the point. You are not meant to fit. You are meant to connect. When you live from the heart, you make the invisible visible. You bring heaven down to earth, not as fantasy but as frequency. You remind others that enlightenment is not escape. It's embodiment. It's love living in flesh. 10. The infinite continuum of love. The twin flame mission doesn't end It evolves. There is no final stage, only deeper layers of expansion. Union leads to service. Service leads to creation. Creation leads to new cycles of awakening. You realize that even if you're twin flame and you part ways again in this lifetime, the love remains eternal, unbreakable, transcendent. Because the true union is not between two souls. It's between love and life itself. Every sunrise, every laugh, every heartbeat becomes an echo of that union. Voiceover soft, luminous close. The mirror stage showed you who you are. The healing stage helped you become whole. The union stage taught you peace. And now the mission stage invites you to give that peace away. Because what's the point of awakening if it doesn't light the path for others? You are no longer the seeker. You are the reflection of divine love walking in human form. And through your life, the universe remembers its own beauty. So go beyond the mirror. Carry the light. Live the love. Be the union. Part 7: The Eternal Dance. Lessons that transcend time. Have you ever looked into someone's eyes and felt thousands of years stare back at you? A love that feels older than your memory, deeper than logic, stronger than reason? That is the language of eternity, the silent recognition of two souls who have met countless times before, in countless forms, wearing countless names. For twin flames, love is not confined to one lifetime. It is a continuum, a rhythm that echoes through centuries, shaping, breaking, and rebirthing you until only truth remains. 1. The soul's long memory. We like to think that love begins with a meeting, a first glance, a first conversation, a first touch. But the soul remembers differently. When you meet your twin flame in this lifetime, what you're really experiencing is a continuation, not a beginning. You're picking up a thread woven through lifetimes, a tapestry of growth, loss, healing, and reunion. You've been the lover and the beloved, the teacher and the student, the runner and the chaser. Each lifetime you switched roles because the point was never the story. It was the evolution. 2. The cycles of meeting and separation. Across time, twin flames often incarnate with alternating purposes. Some lifetimes are meant for reunion, others for separation, some for service, others for awakening. Sometimes you meet for a brief moment, just long enough to awaken something forgotten. Sometimes you walk together for decades, building, creating, healing. And sometimes you never meet physically at all because the union is meant to happen in the etheric, in spirit, where distance dissolves. This ebb and flow is not punishment. It's choreography, the divine dance of polarity and unity, contraction and expansion, forgetting and remembering. Each cycle refines you. Each parting polishes your soul into greater clarity. Each reunion expands your capacity for love. 3. The timeless classroom. Every lifetime offers a different lesson, a new classroom for the same eternal subject, love without condition. Perhaps in one life you learned loyalty, in another forgiveness, in another still you learned what it means to let go. Some lifetimes you were together but asleep, others apart but aware. And now, in this lifetime, you are awakening within the connection itself. You're learning to hold love without possession, to honor connection without control. This is one of the rarest and most difficult lessons a soul can master. To love deeply yet remain free. To care endlessly yet remain centered. To unite yet not lose the self. That is the sacred curriculum of twin flames through time. 4. The threads of karma and grace. Every meeting across lifetimes carries echoes, not as punishment but as opportunity. The conflicts, the betrayals, the heartbreaks you face now may be karmic imprints from stories left unresolved. But karma is not dead. It's unfinished energy seeking resolution. It repeats not to punish, but to heal, to give you another chance to choose differently. When you forgive your twin in this life, you release centuries of density. When you let go of control, you dissolve ancient contracts, built on fear. And when you choose compassion over blame, you elevate not only yourself but every version of you that ever was. This is grace. The moment karma turns into wisdom. 5. The quantum nature of connection. The twin flame bond transcends the linear concept of time. It exists in what mystics call the quantum field, the timeless dimension of pure consciousness. That's why you feel their emotions from miles away. Why their dreams echo in yours. Why, even after years apart, one look can reignite everything. It's not imagination. It's entanglement. Like two particles born from the same star, what happens to one ripples instantly to the other. In physics, this is called quantum entanglement. In spirit, it's called love. When you heal yourself. Now, you heal your past lives simultaneously. When you forgive in this moment, your future lifetimes become lighter. Time bends around consciousness, and love is the hand that shapes it. 6. The timeline of mastery. Each lifetime builds upon the previous, just as each breath builds upon the last. Your soul evolves not in leaps but in spirals. You revisit similar lessons, but from higher vantage points. Perhaps in a past life you couldn't handle the intensity, you ran. In this one you're learning to stay. Perhaps before you clung to your twin out of fear. In this one you're learning to release them with peace. That's mastery, not perfection but evolution through awareness. Every time you choose love over fear, the spiral ascends. And through that ascension, your connection becomes less about emotion and more about conscious creation. 7. The guardians of frequency. Twin flames are not just lovers through time, they are guardians of frequency. In every age, they incarnate to anchor the vibration of unconditional love, wherever humanity is ready to receive it. In ancient temples, they kept the wisdom of balance alive. In dark eras, they reminded the world that love endures. In modern times, they return not as saints, but as ordinary people carrying extraordinary hearts. They walk through heartbreak, confusion, and awakening so others can learn through them. They fall, they rise, they mirror, they heal, until love itself becomes embodied once again on earth. Your journey is not isolated. It's part of a vast web of twin souls awakening all over the world, a collective choreography of remembrance. 8. The eternal reunion. There will come a lifetime, maybe this one, maybe another, where the dance reaches stillness, where both souls have learned all they needed from separation, where love flows without resistance, like two rivers merging into one sea. But even then, union is not an ending. It's a beginning. From that harmony, new missions emerge, planetary, cosmic, creative. Twin flames who reach full reunion become conduits for universal healing. They anchor frequencies that lift entire generations. And when their physical lives end, they meet again in higher realms, smiling, knowing they'll find each other once more when the next sunrise of incarnation begins. Because love never dies. It only changes form. 9. The legacy of light. Every lifetime leaves an imprint, a subtle vibration that adds to the legacy of your soul's light. Even if you never see your twin again in this life, the work you've done echoes eternally. The compassion you've cultivated, the awareness you've awakened, the peace you've anchored, it all becomes part of your shared frequency, the song of your union that will play across ages. And when the time comes to incarnate again, that vibration will draw you together once more. Not to repeat, but to create. Because that's what eternal love does. It doesn't cling to the past. It builds upon it. 10. The infinite dance. Music swells, ethereal, timeless. Stars move across the sky like memory itself. Voiceover. The twin flame journey is not a straight line. It's an infinite dance. One lifetime you lead, another you follow. Sometimes you meet, sometimes you part. But always, always you evolve. You've danced as warriors, poets, healers, wanderers. You've loved in palaces and deserts, under starlight and under storm. And every lifetime, no matter how different, has carried the same rhythm. Love finding itself again. When you finally understand that nothing is lost. Not time, not distance, not love. You stop chasing and start flowing. You realize that you and your twin are not walking parallel paths. You are spiraling toward eternity together. Because the purpose was never reunion. It was realization. The remembering that you were never truly apart, not for a single heartbeat, not for a single lifetime. And so the dance continues. Through time, through lifetimes, through love itself. Until one day you both look at each other. And the entire universe whispers. You were the lesson, the mirror, and the home, all along. Part 8. The Sacred Paradox. Loving without attachment, serving without ego. Once you've walked through lifetimes of longing and mirrors, you begin to understand something profound. Love is not meant to be held. It is meant to flow. True union doesn't chain you. It frees you. And true service doesn't inflate you. It dissolves you. This is the sacred paradox of awakening. To love without attachment. To serve without ego. To give everything, and yet remain whole. 1. The human heart and the divine current. We often think enlightenment means escaping emotion, floating above the messiness of the human experience. But awakening doesn't erase the heart. It expands it. You still feel. You still love. You still ache when someone leaves. But you no longer confuse pain with loss, or love with possession. You begin to see emotion as energy, a sacred current of life itself. Every feeling, from joy to sorrow, becomes holy water cleansing the soul. The heart stops fighting reality. It learns to surrender to the rhythm of divine timing, to the flow of what is. Love, once bound by fear, becomes infinite. 2. Loving without owning. To love without attachment doesn't mean to stop caring. It means to care so deeply that you no longer need to control the outcome. Attachment says, I love you, therefore you must stay. Unconditional love says, I love you, therefore you are free. When you release attachment, love loses its edges. It stops being a transaction and becomes a vibration. It doesn't vanish when someone walks away. It continues to live through you, like sunlight that warms everything it touches, without needing to be claimed. That's why the awakened heart never breaks, it expands. 3. Detachment versus indifference. Many confuse detachment with indifference, but they are opposites. Indifference is numbness, a closing of the heart. Detachment is awareness, a widening of it. The detached soul loves more deeply, not less, because they are no longer driven by fear. They can hold someone close without clinging. They can let someone go without collapsing. In detachment you find balance, the sacred middle ground between giving and holding back, between human love and divine freedom. This is the energy of true twin flame union love that breathe. 4. The ego's subtle return. Even after awakening, the ego doesn't disappear. It transforms. It becomes subtler, whispering instead of shouting. It might say, look how spiritual I've become. Or, I am chosen. Others aren't. Or even, I must save the world. These are the ego's last disguises, the masks of superiority and saviorhood. But love needs no hierarchy. The moment you think you are above others, you've fallen below truth. The awakened heart knows. There is nothing to prove, nothing to protect, nothing to own. Only love flowing endlessly through all forms. 5. Service without ego. Serving without ego means remembering that you are not the one doing the work, love is. You become the instrument, not the source. The flute doesn't claim to create music. It simply allows the breath to pass through it. That's what an awakened soul becomes. A vessel for divine melody. You teach, you create, you heal, but not to be admired. You do it because it's your natural expression. The way sunlight cannot help but shine. And when you no longer need credit or recognition, your energy becomes pure. You serve not from emptiness, seeking validation, but from fullness overflowing with grace. 6. Balancing the human and the divine. The paradox of awakening is that you become more divine and more human at the same time. You laugh easily, cry openly, and love freely. You're not here to escape the human story. You're here to infuse it with light. You can meditate in silence and also dance under city lights. You can hold sacred space and also enjoy a morning coffee. You are both the ocean and the drop, both infinity and intimacy. And that's what makes awakened love so beautiful. It doesn't deny humanity, it redeems it. Through your hands, eyes, and breath, the divine gets to experience itself in human form. 7. When love becomes presence. In the awakened state, love no longer depends on conditions, roles, or relationships. It becomes presence. You love not because someone earned it, but because that's who you are. Love ceases to be something you do. It becomes what you be. Every encounter, every moment, every breath becomes sacred. You look at a stranger and feel connection. You see your twin flame and feel home. You look within and feel God. Love becomes omnipresent, the invisible thread linking all things. 8. The practice of sacred non-attachment. To embody non-attachment is a daily practice, Not denial but devotion. It means observing emotions without drowning in them, loving deeply while staying centered in self-awareness, letting go over and over again without closing the heart. One practice. When you feel triggered or fearful of losing someone, pause. Breathe into the feeling. Ask gently, what am I afraid of losing? Often the answer is not the person. It's your sense of safety, identity, or worth. Then whisper, I am safe. I am whole. Love cannot leave me because it lives through me. This transforms attachment into awareness, the highest form of love. 9. The humility of awakening. True spiritual maturity comes wrapped in humility. You realize that no one arrives. There is no final stage. Even enlightened souls still learn, still grow, still forget and remember again. The difference is they no longer judge the forgetting. They bow to the mystery of existence. They honor the paradox that the infinite hides inside the fragile, that divinity whispers through imperfection. To live in humility is to live in reverence, knowing that every being you meet is another face of God. 10. Love as infinite service. When love becomes freedom and service becomes joy, you've crossed the final threshold of awakening. You no longer seek to save others, you simply radiate understanding. You no longer preach, you embody. Your presence alone becomes a healing field. People come near you and feel lighter, not because you fixed them but because you reminded them of who they already are. You begin to see your life as an offering. Every smile, every act of kindness, every heartbeat a silent prayer. May all beings remember love. And that is the purest form of service. Not grand gestures but simple radiance. To love without attachment is not to renounce love. It is to love so completely that there is nothing left to hold. To serve without ego is not to disappear. It is to become transparent, so that only light shines through. This is the sacred paradox, where the lover becomes love, and the servant becomes the song. You realize that you and the universe have always been dancing, not to reach a destination, but to celebrate the infinite rhythm of existence itself. The awakened soul does not say, I am free from love. It says, I have become love, and love has become everything. Part 9. The return to oneness. Merging the human story with the divine whole. There is a moment, quiet and infinite, when the seeker stops seeking. When love no longer feels like a journey toward something, but a return to what has always been here. The separation dissolves. The mirror disappears. And you find yourself standing in the middle of life. The same streets, the same faces, but everything is shimmering with presence. This is oneness. Not a theory, not a mystical escape, but a lived reality, where the human and divine finally breathe as one. 1. The end of the search. All spiritual journeys, no matter how vast or dramatic, eventually lead here. The simple recognition, I was never separate. You spent lifetimes looking for your twin flame, for home, for God, for meaning. But when the searching ends, you realize all of them were reflections of the same longing, to remember the truth of who you are. When you stop reaching outward, the universe folds inward. Every prayer returns to the same source, your own heart. And in that quiet recognition, peace settles, not as an emotion, but as a constant awareness. You no longer chase enlightenment. You live it. 2. The wholeness of the ordinary. Enlightenment isn't fireworks. It's not constant ecstasy. It's doing the laundry and feeling the presence of God in every drop of water. It's standing in a grocery line and realizing you are breathing the same air as the stars. It's laughing with a friend and feeling galaxies move through your laughter. You begin to see that divinity was never elsewhere. It was hidden in plain sight, in coffee cups, in morning light, in the rhythm of your own heartbeat. The sacred and the mundane merge. There is no spiritual life anymore. There is only life. And that finally is enough. 3. When the world becomes the beloved. The twin flame journey taught you to see love in one person. Oneness teaches you to see love in everything. You look at the world and feel what mystics call the beloved in all forms. The rain that touches your skin is the same love that once touched your twin's hand. The bird singing outside your window carries the same frequency that once called your name. Everywhere you look, the universe is whispering, I am you. You realize you never lost your twin. You simply expanded so much that the whole world became your reflection. The tree, the ocean, the stranger's eyes, they're all fragments of the same eternal mirror, now made whole. 4. Integration of the two selves. Oneness doesn't erase individuality, it harmonizes it. You still have preferences, dreams, a sense of humor, the human self remains. But now it moves in alignment with the divine current. Before, you struggled between spiritual self and human self. Now, they are one continuum, two notes in the same song. You can meditate in the morning and negotiate contracts in the afternoon, both with the same awareness. You can love your twin passionately and also let them walk their path freely, because you've realized you were never meant to choose between heaven and earth. You were meant to bridge them. That's what oneness is. Not escaping the world, but inhabiting it fully as love. 5. The body as a temple of light. When the soul integrates, the body follows. You begin to sense the divine not only in thought but in your cells. Breathing feels sacred. Walking feels like prayer. Your heartbeat syncs with the rhythm of creation itself. You start treating your body not as an obstacle but as a temple, the vessel through which the universe gets to experience touch, taste, and time. You eat with gratitude. You move with awareness. You rest with reverence. Because you finally understand spirituality was never about escaping the physical. It was about realizing that matter itself is condensed divinity. 6. Time becomes transparent. In the state of oneness, your relationship with time changes. You no longer live in anxiety about what will happen or regret about what has been. You feel eternity breathing through every moment. Each second becomes infinite, alive, complete. The past and future lose their grip, because you see them for what they are, dimensions of the same eternal now. Even your memories with your twin feel different. They no longer ache with absence. They glow with gratitude, reminders of how love taught you to wake up. You begin to live in flow, guided not by plans but by synchronicity. And in that flow, everything aligns effortlessly. 7. The world mirrors your inner stillness. You rest in unity, the outer world begins to mirror that harmony. People around you feel calmer. Chaos seems to slow down in your presence. Opportunities appear naturally, as if the universe is responding to your vibration. This is not coincidence, it's coherence. When your inner world is in union, your outer world reflects it. Your life becomes a living mandala. Every event perfectly placed, every encounter divinely timed. You no longer manifest from desire. You co-create from awareness. The universe becomes your partner, not your servant. And everything you experience, even challenge, becomes part of your sacred choreography. 8. The return of compassion. Oneness doesn't make you detached, it makes you tender. You see suffering in others and feel it as your own. Not with pity but with understanding. You no longer divide the world into healed and unhealed, awake and asleep. You see that everyone is on the same spiral, some just walking slower, others faster. Judgment dissolves. You help not because you feel superior but because compassion has become instinct. When you give, you feel yourself receiving. When you forgive, you feel the universe exhale. This is the heart of unity, empathy without boundaries. 9. Living as a conduit of the whole. You begin to understand what it means to be a conduit. Energy flows through you like water through an open channel. You don't try to control where it goes, you simply allow it. Some days that energy becomes creativity. Other days it becomes rest. Sometimes it manifests as art. Other times as silence. You follow what the Taoists call Wu Wei, effortless action. You live guided by intuition, not impulse, by inspiration, not obligation. Life moves through you, not against you. And that's the true power of oneness. Living not as a someone trying to achieve, but as the universe expressing itself effortlessly through form. 10. The Great Homecoming. Voiceover. At the end of the journey, you realize there was never a journey at all, only a remembering. The mirror, the pain, the longing, the separation. All were chapters of awakening leading you back to this truth. You have always been home. You were never lost. You were never broken. Your twin flame, your teachers, your heartbreaks, all were reflections of one thing. The universe longing to see itself through your eyes. Now the longing has fulfilled its purpose. You don't reach outward anymore. You shine outward. You live as the embodiment of the truth every mystic whispers. I am that I am. The lover, the beloved, and the love are one. The dance never ends because it was never about reaching heaven. It was about realizing heaven was always here, disguised as the ordinary moments you once overlooked. And so, you return to life, to your work, your friends, your laughter. But something fundamental has changed. You are no longer a person searching for God. You are God, experiencing being a person. You are no longer chasing love. You are love, expressing itself as a human heartbeat. This is the return to oneness, not leaving the world but loving it so completely that nothing remains outside your embrace. Part 10. The Lightkeepers. Living as love in a fragmented world. After awakening, the challenge is no longer to find the light. It is to carry it. To keep your flame steady when the world trembles in shadow. Because enlightenment isn't a refuge apart from humanity. It's a responsibility within it. You are no longer only a soul in search of truth. You are a lightkeeper, one who remembers and helps others remember. One the return to the world. Every mystic must return to the marketplace. After silence, there is sound. After mountain peaks, there are crowded streets. You wake from transcendence and still have to pay bills, raise children, answer emails. The ego whispers, how can I live as love in this chaos? But the answer is simple, by being present inside it. Presence is not what happens away from the noise. It is the calm within it. The awakened soul doesn't hide from the world, they illuminate it from the inside out. 2. Holding frequency amid friction. The collective field of earth is loud. Fear, anger, competition, distraction. When you live as love, you feel that noise more acutely. You sense emotional currents in crowds, pain behind smiles, exhaustion beneath ambition. At first it can feel overwhelming, but you learn to anchor instead of absorb. Like a lighthouse in a storm, you don't fight the waves, you stand. Your stillness becomes guidance for others who are drowning in reaction. They may not know why they feel calmer near you, but their nervous systems recognize safety in your vibration. That is what being a lightkeeper means. Remaining kind when others forget how. 3. The discipline of light. Love may be natural, but radiating it consistently is an art. You tend to it the way a monk tends to a candle. Morning practice. Quiet breath before speaking. Returning again and again to awareness when the world's noise pulls you away. You begin to treat your energy field like sacred architecture. Clean, grounded, resilient. Not perfect but conscious. Because light without discipline flickers. But light with devotion endures wind, rain and time. For the world as your mirror again. You thought you had outgrown mirroring, but now the mirror has grown larger. Society becomes your new reflection. Every injustice mirrors the remnants of your own judgment. Every war mirrors the conflict still hidden in your mind. Every act of greed mirrors the parts of you that still fear lack. When you heal within, the outer world shifts. By degree, you stop blaming systems and start embodying solutions. You become an example rather than a critic. The revolution of consciousness disguised as ordinary kindness. 5. The power of small acts. The awakened ego still dreams of grand missions, saving the planet, awakening millions. But love whispers, begin small. Smiling at a stranger, listening without interrupting, choosing empathy instead of argument, planting a tree whose shade you may never sit under. These are not trivial gestures, they are frequencies. Each act sends ripples through the collective field, rewriting what's possible for humanity. The new world is not built by heroes. It is built by hearts. 6. The invisible network. Across continents, lightkeepers recognize each other without words. A glance, a tone, a moment of silent acknowledgement. You see it too. They are artists, parents, engineers, healers, writers, ordinary people carrying extraordinary calm. They may never meet, yet they form a luminous web around the planet, a quiet grid of compassion holding Earth in balance. When one falters, another brightens. When one prays, thousands feel steadier. That is how consciousness evolves, not through force but through resonance. 7. Compassion for the sleeping. As light expands, you will meet resistance. Not everyone welcomes reflection. Some will project their pain upon you, dismiss your peace as naivety. But you've walked through mirrors before. You know projection is not personal. Respond not with defense but with empathy. Say silently, I remember that stage. I was there once. Compassion becomes your armor. Forgiveness your sword. You no longer fight darkness. You understand it. 'Cause once it was you. 8. The shadow of the Savior. Even lightkeepers can fall into the trap of trying to rescue. You see suffering and want to fix it. But saving is not the same as serving. Saving says, you are broken. Let me repair you. Serving says, you are divine. Let me remind you. Your role is not to carry others' pain, but to show them how to transform it. You guide not through control but through embodiment. Living proof that peace is possible. When you release the Savior, you become the teacher without words. 9. Creating heaven in real time. Heaven is not a place we ascend to. It's a frequency we anchor here. Every time you choose love over fear, truth over comfort, generosity over pride, you open another portal of heaven on earth. Communities built on cooperation. Relationships built on transparency. Economies guided by ethics, not exploitation. Start small, one household, one workplace, one heart. But collective evolution is nothing more than billions of personal awakenings occurring simultaneously. You realize, the apocalypse everyone fears is simply the unveiling. The old world ending so a more luminous one can begin. 10. The quiet radiance of being. The city lights fade into sunrise. Soft instrumental. Swells, hopeful, vast. Voiceover. To live as a lightkeeper is not to live without darkness. It is to remember that darkness is only the shadow of your own light. You no longer strive to shine. You simply stop hiding. You live slower, listen deeper, love wider. Your presence becomes prayer. Your laughter becomes healing. Your existence becomes example. And when the world grows loud again, as it always will, you return to the simplest practice of all, breathing light. Inhale the collective pain. Exhale peace. Inhale confusion. Exhale clarity. Inhale separation. Exhale unity. You realize you are not here to escape the world, but to remind the world of what it already is, holy whole home. Voiceover, soft closing. The lightkeeper's path is humble yet infinite. No crown, no robe. Only a steady flame carried through the dark. And maybe that's all the universe ever asked of you. To keep the light alive. To love when it's hardest. To believe when others forget. Because in the end, the greatest miracle is not awakening alone. It's staying awake together.